What's going on, everybody? It's KDZen. Today we're going to be talking about the Dark Souls Remastered network test, which I was able to get my hands on this past weekend, like so many of you guys. And I'm going to be giving my honest thoughts, which means this video is going to be kind of negative. Now, I normally don't really like saying too many negative things about games, because I don't really consider myself a negative person. And also, when I have complaints, that's usually when the dislikes start rolling in. But I'm thinking to myself, you know, people are out there saying far, far worse things about this remaster. So, surely, my thoughts can't be too bad. So, hope you enjoyed the video, and let me know what you think about your opinions as well in the comments below. So we're going to be splitting this discussion into two parts. First, we're going to be talking about the game itself, and then we're going to be talking about the network test. Because I have complaints about both of these things, but I want to make them very clear and apart from each other. Because a lot of the things I hate about the network test really won't be issues with the actual game itself. Because honestly, I thought the network test was actually pretty shitty the way it was structured, but we'll get into that in the latter half of the video. But let's talk about the game itself, things that we learned from the network test that are going to be evident in the full release, which is the netcode. And I'm happy to say, in my experience with, you know, the PvP and the summoning, the netcode, I know they said they're doing dedicated servers, but really, it felt on par with Dark Souls 3. Maybe just a little bit better. You know, it's definitely not how old school Dark Souls or Demon Souls on PS3 was with that connection. It felt miles better. Of course, this doesn't really change all in all PvP of Dark Souls itself. It's still the same game through and through. Backstabs, there's been nothing done about that. Pretty much any of the mechanics, none of them have been changed, which will segue quite nicely into thoughts on the remaster, in that nothing has changed. I mean, even if you take it at face value, which is, oh, they're not touching the game itself, it's a remaster, they're just going to be making it look better. I'm going to be playing some clips on the screen, and if that's what they're selling the game as, is a visual improvement, then I don't know what the fuck they thought was passable. I mean, pretty much the only thing that really stood out to me was the different fire effect. There was the lighting, as far as like realistic lighting of the bonfire and things like that, but other than that, nothing was changed. There are still trees that look straight out of fucking Paper Mario. There are still giant holes in the world in random places. There are missing textures if you know where to look. A lot of random shit that just makes you think, if they're really putting forth any effort at all to remaster this game, you think they'd fix these things. Now, me personally, these are not deal breakers for the game, but it's just kind of funny to me that you call it a remaster, but you don't fix these blatant issues, and you know, bump up the resolution. So when people say Dark Souls Remastered is just going to be a Dark Souls port, they're very much right. But what's really important to me is that this is going to be the first time that Dark Souls has been fully playable with no broken physics at 60 FPS. Which, for me, is definitely enough to justify another purchase of this game, because it'll be the first time we've had a 60 FPS. Which will definitely set it as the definitive version of Dark Souls 1 to play, regardless of the little nitpicks that I have. Like, you know, I think the fire effect is nice, but it really shouldn't be added to the bonfires, because, for example, in the network test, they give you the right of kindling. And so I kindled it to the max to see what the fire effect would look like, because it's all different on the bonfire. And I was, this is honestly a super small nitpick, but I hated it. I hated the fire effect on the bonfire. When, in the original version, when it's fully maxed out, it looks like this sort of majestic flame that has this importance about it. But now it's just a big-ass fireball that looks sort of crude in a way. And again, this is a really neat complaint of me to make, but I hope I'm making sense on that. Another thing that really stood out to me that really sucks dick is that the PS4 version of this game, as of the network test, is riddled with this dog shit motion blur, which after playing for 10 minutes you don't notice, but when you first start up, you notice that the slightest camera movements will completely distort the image. Now, it's not going to seem that obvious going through YouTube with all the compression, but once you sit down and play it, if you're really sensitive to motion blur, it's really going to be visually unsatisfying to you, which, and a lot of people are used to console versions expecting not having an option for disabling the motion blur, but it's 2018, we've got that option in God of War, Uncharted, all these games are giving us more options, like Star Ocean on PS4. I know this is like a really out there, I know I'm kind of drawing from really out there, but that PS4 version gave you full settings over the graphics, like a stupid amount, which in 2018 I think should be standard for a console. So to not even give you the option to turn off the motion blur is pretty stupid, and I really hope in the full version, you know, I say that I hope that they'll add an option to turn off the motion blur, but let's be fucking honest here. They're not gonna give us an option with with the amount of effort that we're seeing they put in. I don't think they give a shit. Whatever third-party developers keep working on this QLOC, I don't know. So minor visual complaints aside, this is still Dark Souls 1 through and through. Not a lot has changed. So if you like the original game, if you never played it before, you're still gonna have a great experience, which is of course made miles better by the inclusion of 60 FPS, which in my experience on PS4 Pro, in the Undead Parish area, I got little to no frame drops at all. It ran beautifully, which is to be expected when you consider how, you know, little was changed from the PS3 version. But also considering that it was running at 1800p on PS4 Pro to maintain a stable 60, it's pretty impressive. So I think when Dark Souls Remastered comes out, it's gonna be a definite buy for me because of that 60 FPS and of the repopulation of online that it's gonna see. But now I want to talk about the network test itself and how well that turned out, which honestly, I think it was really structured in a shitty way. So the way it took place is that they actually did sort of a throwback to the E3 demo where you had 6 different classes to choose from, which were the 6 classes available in that demo, and you started in the room in the Undead Parish right under the Red Drake. You went through that area, you fought the Bell Gargoyles, and then it booted you back to the title screen. You couldn't save your progress at all, which I thought was a little odd. And this is a fine area of the game for a first-time player to experience and kind of get a feel, and there are summon signs everywhere, which sort of gives me an impression that online's going to be better. Of course, there were summoning fails everywhere, but the main thing that me and a lot of other people were looking forward to in this network test was going to be obviously PvP, and I don't know what they were thinking when they made it so that the only class that can invade another player is the Black Knight. That's the only class with a red-eye orb. So what this breaks down to, when you're doing PvP, 90% of the time you're either going to be fighting with a Black Knight sword, or you're going to be fighting against a Black Knight sword, and that just gets unfun. Now sure, a Black Knight class could pick up another weapon in the area and fight you with that, but no one's doing that shit because the Black Knight sword in this network test was ridiculously OP. It reached up to 304 AR when you two-handed it, which none of the other classes' weapons even came fucking close. So with none of the classes really being balanced for PvP at all, it really turned into the Black Knight Sword network test, and that was just, it got very old very quickly. There was just no point in using something like a halberd or a rapier when you're fighting a weapon that does nearly 3, sometimes 4 times the amount of damage. But of course, like I said before, these complaints are purely about the network test, and don't really apply to the full game when it launches because that build flexibility is going to be not really a problem at all. It's definitely going to return. So I think the network test was really shitty, but end of the day, it gave us a feel for what the game's going to be like and how the PvP is going to feel, which, I mean, all things considered, is an improvement. There are obvious complaints, which I've went over, which hopefully on the PC version, modding can do some adjustments there. We'll see how that goes. So all in all, Dark Souls Remastered seems like a pretty disappointing amount of effort they put into it, but let's be honest, we're all gonna buy this shit anyways. I'm buying this shit. I'm buying it 3 times, dude. I'm buying it on PC for, you know, the best visual experience. Gonna be buying on PS4, which is probably gonna be my main PvP console, given the mostly lack of hackers and the 1800p output option. And then once it inevitably comes out on Switch, having Dark Souls portably is going to be huge, and so that's going to be a definite buy. And it still just sucks that they really didn't go the distance with this. And you know, I seem to recall a video I made a couple months ago, which I pretty much completely predicted how this shit was going to go, and I got dislikes and hate, people saying that no, this is From Software, they wouldn't possibly do this. And, you know, I hate to say I told you so. I sincerely hate to say I told you so because it sucks, but it's hard to feel good about being right, you know. But anyways, let me guys know what you think in the comments of this video, if you're going to be picking up the remaster, what you think of the changes, what you'd like to see more changed, and also follow me on Twitch and Twitter if you want to keep up with my shitty personal life, as well as my shitty streams, you can do that. This chair needs to shut the fuck up, it's so loud. Anyways, I'll see you later guys, peace out, thanks for watching.